Hey, welcome back to Zombie Tactics. Today, doing a review of this here holster. You've probably seen this one all over YouTube because it seems that the company that manufactures it, Aegis Armory, is doing a great job of really doing a marketing push out there, and lots of YouTubers have been given T&E units of these to evaluate, and I'm no different in that respect. Now, being that almost everybody and their brother-in-law is reviewing this holster on YouTube, my challenge is to give you something of some kind of value that you haven't seen on another channel, and that's what we're going to do. I'll roll in some pictures of the holster here and some video to kind of demonstrate some of the concepts I'm going to talk about, but this looks at first gloss kind of like just an ordinary inside the waistband concealment holster designed to be worn at about the 5 o'clock position at on your body. And at first gloss, that's what it looks like. Now, I've used holsters like this before, and I haven't really liked them. As a matter of fact, when Aegis Armory first got a hold of me and said, hey, we want you to review this holster, I kind of said, you know, I'm not really into that kind of holster. You got something else I can check out? And they make some other holsters too. But they said, no, try this out. Try this out. We think you're really going to like it. And I gave them the typical, disclaimers that I don't do pay-to-play reviews. It's not like you send me a free holster and I'm going to, say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread and all that. I'm real honest about this. And I've been playing with this for about the last 2 months, which probably is one of the reasons why I'm one of the last people to probably do a review of this holster. But I'll kind of take you through the process of what looking at a holster is for me, and why I think that this is actually, for those of you with a short attention span, we'll cut right to the chase. It's a very good holster. As a matter of fact, it's probably the best holster of this hybrid design that I've encountered, and I've seen a lot of them. As I just noted, this is a hybrid holster design. As a matter of fact, when this holster, which is called the Shield in Aegis Armory's catalog, first came out, they simply referred to it as the hybrid, and that's because it is part leather and part Kydex construction. You've got, a Kydex shield mounted to a leather backing. That's for purposes of comfort and for purposes of giving a good grasp on the gun. Some quality points of this holster, and I may roll in some B-roll on this if I can't get it good enough on just the one take here. But many times, we're going to roll in Mr. Glock 19 here. It's been danger checked about 14 times, but there is a magazine in the mag well because we want to deal with a full weight weapon whenever showing a holster. Couple of quality points here. One of them is a lot of times people fail to properly, I think it's actually showing up pretty good there, they fail to properly cover the entire trigger area with a Kydex holster, and that's something that I find problematic with some holsters. That is a danger point. If you just recently read about a police officer in Lodi, California having a negligent discharge because a child was able to get to the trigger while the gun was holstered, well, that's a case where, yeah, that trigger guard's not completely covered for some reason. That's a bad idea. Now, of course, that was a duty holster. This is a concealment holster, but the principle holds true nonetheless. In addition to that, one of the areas that a lot of people don't really cover very well with Kydex holsters is sometimes if the trigger area is covered well, it doesn't give you enough room right here where the bottom of the trigger guard is to get that middle finger in there to get a full good purchase of the gun. In this case, that's not a problem. I may actually even bevel that out a little bit more. And if you get one of these holsters, I would recommend that you check it out and modify it as necessary. There's nothing wrong with modifying a holster. Just make sure that the holster does completely cover, that the Kydex does completely cover the trigger guard. All of the areas where the Kydex is cut are nicely sanded or rounded or something like that. That's not something you see all the time with Kydex holsters, and that's a big deal because it means that this is not likely to get as snagged on the inside of clothing or wear it away. I've actually seen people who have an inside the waistband holster where it's half Kydex like that, and all of the edges over time, you'll get almost like a white line imprint on a pair of jeans or a pair of pants where you can clearly see where that person's been wearing that holster because it's so sharp that it's actually imprinting or slightly abrading or cutting the material on the inside of their jeans, and as you wash it, it wears away. I don't think you're going to have that problem with this holster because it is very smooth. There's nothing there like a sharp edge or anything that cuts, no jagged edges, no little frayed edges or anything like that that's going to grab on the material. Good for Aegis Armory for doing that. Similarly, the leather they've also rounded and or sanded or whatever, however they're tooling this leather, it is very rounded on the edges, and that helps a lot with comfort up against your body, because this will be worn probably up against your skin. You don't want a really stiff leather with sharp edges up against your skin, otherwise that kind of avoids the whole point of having a hybrid leather type of arrangement where the leather is up against your skin for comfort. So big deal there. Now, standard kind of outside the waistband, inside the waistband clips that are used here. They are attached with very good hardware. All of the hardware is also of very high quality. Sometimes you'll get these, what are they called? I don't know, Chicago screws or something like that, or these grommet type things, and there are sharp edges or little burrs on it or whatever. Those are the kinds of things that catch on clothing as well. Or, you know, you catch your finger and you get a little cut or something. So they've shown some attention to detail there, either buying very good hardware or making sure that they're picking through the ones that they're getting and getting the good ones. The belt clips will come off easily, and you can see if we look here, there are multiple holes, so that if you consider the fact that the holster is worn this way, you can adjust this to ride at various heights inside your waistband, depending upon where you put these clips. The clips are of a solid metal construction. There's nothing special about these. These seem to be the same clips that everybody and their brother-in-law uses. Frankly, I could do with having these maybe tooled a little bit to have rounded edges, but I understand something's made out of steel. It's not necessarily something you want to mess with, and that might up the cost a lot because of the amount of labor that would be involved in it. They're very effective. They hold the gun inside your waistband when it's in place. Now, something that I noticed right out of the box with this holster, compared to other holsters of this design, is that the Kydex is thinner than what I'm used to, and the leather is thinner than what I'm used to. And that's a good thing, and it almost turned out to be a bad thing, but it turned into a very good thing, and I'll show you why in a second. A lot of these holsters of this kind I have not liked, and one of the reasons why I don't really use a holster like this is most of them that I've used, the leather is very stiff, and they'll even come with instructions that say this holster has to be worn in. Great. All the time that I'm wearing this in, it doesn't it doesn't properly mold to my body. Now you'll notice that the leather here is thin enough. That either means it's thin enough or it's been worked enough that it is supple, and it will in fact mold to the contours of your body. The Kydex is a little thin to me, but that's an advantage in that, you know, you don't have a big, thick, bulky thing out there. Now, when I took the thing first out of the box and I noticed all of those great quality points, one of my first ways that I will test any holster is I'll do the following, particularly for a concealment holster. I'll take the holster, I'll put a fully loaded gun in it, meaning I've got a magazine full of rounds, and, you know, the gun, of course, has been safety checked, danger checked. There's not any rounds in this. And I will simply turn it upside down, and I'll give it a shake or two. Now you notice I'm hanging onto the gun here, and that's because the minute that I take my hands away from this and I simply lift this up, this is going to come right out of there very easily. There's almost, just taking a look at it like this, there's almost no retention on this holster at all, just taking a look at it out of the box like that. When I did that, I said, well, crap. This is obviously not going to work. I've got to send this back to these people and say, you know, I really can't give you a good result on this. I can't give you a good review. I think you really need to work on this holster a little bit more. But then it occurred to me, you know, if you're going to test a concealment holster, you really ought to go ahead and put it on and try it. So I put the holster on, and I noticed something really interesting. Because of the way the leather is very supple and flexes, even molding to your body a little bit, it cinches that Kydex down on the gun, and now, keep in mind I'm putting very little pressure here, just as though you just cinched it up a little bit with a belt, and now that gun is held firmly into place, and you don't have a problem with it. You could run around with this gun and it's not going to come out. Just for the slight amount of pressure, you'll notice I'm not pushing anything on the gun. I'm just flexing that Kydex very slightly as though it's molded up against your body and cinched up with a belt. And it holds in place very well. And when it's in that position, it still has a fair amount of, it holds the gun in place very, very, very securely, but not so much that the gun will not come out with a decisive tug outward. So, what almost turned out to be a showstopper for me actually turns out to be something that, whether they did it deliberately or accidentally, this holster ends up being a superior design straight out of the box to a lot of them I've seen, where that leather is very stiff, is uncomfortable to wear, you've got to break it in for an extended period of time, and they end up having very thick kydex as a result that is too stiff and too well molded to the gun in the first place, so it's very tough to get out, and you got to wear that out and wear that in too, to the point where you got a decent enough holster. Meanwhile, you're wearing a holster for concealment that's not very effective for you. You're not going to be able to get the gun out. It's uncomfortable as hell. That seems to be solved with this design. And again, I'm saying, whether that's just an accident of them playing around or whether that's something that they deliberately went out to do, it's a very, very important quality point if you're going to wear a holster like this for concealing a gun. Some other things that kind of go into this that I think kind of make it a really flexible, well, that's almost a pun considering what I just said about the leather, device. You've got slots for a belt. You could easily take off these inside the waistband clips, and you could use this as an outside the waistband holster simply by feeding a belt through it. And you could either feed the belt through the bottom here, going over the top of the holster and back in the other side, or you could feed it under like that and put it where you want that way. So overall, for the price, and I'll let you check the price on the website, this is probably one of the better holsters. As a matter of fact, it's the best holster of this design that I've encountered so far. It's the Aegis Shield holster. I'd recommend it very highly. It gets the old Zombie Tactics stamp of approval. If you're looking for a holster of this kind, I'd check them out. Of course, there'll be a link down in the video notes for you to check out as well. Really surprising, good quality, hybrid style holster, the Shield from Aegis Armory. That's Zombie Tactics for today. We'll see you next time. As always, keep your powder dry and always aim for the head. Bye-bye now.